Here are the crypto top headlines covered in this video. Crypto stocks are trading almost like a mania, says Galaxy Digital's Michael Novogratz. Next, BlackRock, ARK revise Bitcoin ETF plans along SEC's cash-only model. Also, SEC delays several Ethereum ETFs, pushing final decision to May. Welcome to Crypto Top Headlines, where there's no clickbait thumbnails or titles, and no speeches on my opinions, just bringing crypto's news to you. We are a new channel here on YouTube, and would greatly appreciate it if you would click on the like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notification bell. It does help support the channel, so thank you in advance for doing so. Now, on to these headlines. Our first top headline is an interview with Galaxy Digital's Michael Novogratz on CNBC's Squawk Box from December 19th.
Joining us is Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz. And I don't know how you'd weight all the different things, Mike, but for a while it looked like the Bitcoin price came off 25,000, started headed up based on some of the spot ETF conjecture, but this latest move, which really accelerated, had a lot more to do with what you think as an alternative to fiat, as an alternative to money printing, when the Fed said, yeah, we may go back into an easing phase again, and then it was off to the races.
Yeah, Bitcoin up 150% on the year.
150
Best performing asset again, for all the Bitcoin skeptics out there. A little victory lap. Listen, the Fed's pivot is really important. That press conference was as dovish as anybody expected, and the markets are behaving that way. You look at fixed income markets, equity markets; they all are now trading a Fed pivot. And is it March, January, or do they wait till the April meeting? We'll see. We'll see what their narrative is. We'll see what the inflation data is. But this is all based on inflation coming down, and it's not based on growth collapsing. And so they shifted to a more inflation-focused Fed, which gives them the room to cut rates. I think crypto likes it. We're going to get this ETF before January 10th. That's kind of the drop-dead date that Gensler has before he gets in trouble with Grayscale and the lawsuit. And so I think you're going to see this, announced. It won't start trading then, right? That probably takes 6 to 8 weeks after that. But it's just more fuel for a fire. Crypto stocks are trading almost like a mania. This, in some ways, it's a little nervous. I'm a little nervous because it feels so good. Like a lot of the altcoins just, my friend called me yesterday, he said the degens, the degenerates, the traders are having a field day. And that always gets you a little bit nervous. And so, listen, could, stock market's up 8 days in a row. Does it go up 10 days in a row? There's always a correction. But broadly, we're still in bull market phase.
So then let's assume that eventually regulators and just the whole institutional world is able to act on what it would like to do with Bitcoin and crypto. What will it be at that point? Will it be a place, will it be a safe haven, or will it be a speculative asset that people run into when they want to take a lot of risk and try to make a lot of money? Or will it be a combination of both?
Listen, Joe, I've been down to D.C. a bunch in the last 4 months. And if I had any faith that we were going to get a Simpson-Bowles amendment to balance the budget, or we were going to have any fiscal prudence, I wouldn't be as bullish on Bitcoin. But I just don't. And we're going into election year. And so you're going to have a Fed cutting when we still have a 5% budget deficit and a projected 5 or 6% budget deficit out next year and the following year. If people start shifting to 1% of their portfolio, institutions, 1%, not 10, just 1, there isn't a lot of supply of Bitcoin or Ethereum. And so there's a shot that you really get a parabolic move, right? Everyone says, well, the miner supply. We have customers that are platform customers that come in and buy enough Bitcoin every day to take out all the miners. And so when you think about the supply-demand dynamic, we haven't really had a situation where you have a global market and you have something of such limited supply. And so I think Bitcoin could go far higher. I think first stop next year will be the old highs, 69,000. But it wouldn't surprise me if it went beyond that.
And you don't think there's any possibility now that that either politicians or corporate leaders, Jamie Dimon and the like, say, look, this is used to fund terrorist activities. The only use case is for money laundering and nefarious means. And Elizabeth Warren says, look, Jamie Dimon is right. We need to put a stop to this. That's the horse is out of the barn. That's never happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. Listen, this is a global asset. I mean, there are so many unbelievably respected investors that believe Bitcoin has value. And so, again, I would sit, Ray Dalio and Jeff Yass and Abby Johnson and Bill Miller, and I can give you 50 of them on the other side of the table from Jamie Dimon or Elizabeth Warren and say, like, who gives you the right to say what has value? The terrorist financing illicit use cases has kind of been debunked. Yes, some crypto is used for bad things, but not nearly as much as fiat, right? I mean, Jamie Dimon's bank has paid $38 billion in fines since he's been there. $38 billion. Add up all the bad trades with crypto, it doesn't add up to $38 billion. And so should we ban JP Morgan? I mean, that's a crazy statistic.
So Gary Gensler and some of the other regulators, is it easier or safer to just not do anything, or doesn't that sort of leave investors in this country, actually around the world, just that makes it more risky than if they were to actually just take the bull by the horns and decide what to do?
There's a group of both Democrats and Republicans in D.C. that want to get legislation through. There's two pieces of legislation that would really give us a good framework around both stable coins and the rest of crypto. And it's Elizabeth Warren and the White House, the Biden White House, that is stopping that. And I think post this election, we will either have a new administration, either Democrat, Republican, and even if Biden wins, my guess is there's a new Secretary of Treasury and a new head of the SEC, and we'll finally make some progress. There are plenty of Democrats that want crypto legislation, just not enough at stake to take on Elizabeth Warren.
Our next top headline, BlackRock, ARK revise Bitcoin ETF plans along SEC's cash-only model. BlackRock, Cathie Wood's ARK, and WisdomTree are the latest spot Bitcoin ETF applicants to revise their filings with the U.S. SEC. Major applicants for a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund in the United States are amending their filings to comply with the cash redemption model demanded by securities regulators. Investment manager BlackRock and Cathie Wood's ARK Invest have updated their S-1 registration statements for a spot Bitcoin ETF with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Filed on December 18th, the S-1 amendments relate to the cash creation and redemption model for proposed spot Bitcoin ETFs, with BlackRock and ARK accepting the cash redemption system rather than in-kind redemptions, which imply non-monetary payments like BTC. ARK's registration statement hinted that its ARK 21 shares Bitcoin ETF would only allow cash creations and redemptions. The document mentioned potential in-kind creation and redemption of shares, stating that the ETF may also permit authorized participants to create and redeem shares via in-kind transactions subject to regulatory approval. BlackRock subsequently filed a similar update, stressing that in-kind transactions may take place but only subject to regulatory approval. These transactions will take place in exchange for cash. BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF S1 amendment reads, adding, subject to the NASDAQ stock market receiving the necessary regulatory approval to permit the trust to create and redeem shares in kind for Bitcoin, these transactions may also take place in exchange for Bitcoin. According to Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchanas, ARK and its ETF partner 21 Shares did not want to do cash creations and even worked out a creative alternative method to do in-kind redemptions. So if they surrender, that tells you SEC not budging, the debate is over, which is probably good if you were looking for January approval, the analyst wrote. The SEC's cash-only requirement means that the authorized participants, or AP, will only be able to obtain more shares of the ETF by bringing the appropriate amount of cash to the table, according to investor and consultant Vance Harwood. Some funds allow in-kind creations too. For in-kind creations, the AP brings the asset that the ETF tracks and exchanges it for ETF shares. Apparently, the SEC is not keen on allowing this for spot Bitcoin ETFs, Harwood stated. He added that the SEC's position is understandable. It will make it clear where the ETF gets its underlying Bitcoin from. The ETF will buy them, presumably from reputable exchanges, whereas if you allowed in-kind transfers, you wouldn't be able to know where the Bitcoin transferred came from. The global ETF provider, WisdomTree, also filed an S1 amendment to its spot Bitcoin ETF, the WisdomTree Bitcoin ETF, on December 18th, keeping the in-kind creation and redemption option. Authorized participants acting on the authority of the registered holder of shares may surrender baskets in exchange for the corresponding amount of Bitcoin or cash, the registration statement reads, adding that APs may be able to create a basket or redeem through the in-kind option. Finance lawyer Scott Johnson predicted in mid-December that ETF applicants would eventually have to bend their knee to using a cash creation and redemption model for their ETF. Previously, ETF applicants Invesco and Galaxy also updated their S1 registration statements with the cash-only model. Our next top headline, SEC delays several Ethereum ETFs, pushing final decision to May. The SEC has pushed back its decision on a roster of Ethereum ETFs, with the final date for a potential approval arriving in late May. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission is pushing back its decision on several Ether exchange-traded funds to May 2024. In multiple December 18th regulatory filings, the agency delayed its decision on the Hashdex NASDAQ Ethereum ETF and the Grayscale Ethereum Futures ETF. The Hashdex Ether ETF aims to hold both spot Ether and futures contracts, while Grayscale's Ethereum Futures ETF is seen as a Trojan horse that would corner the SEC into allowing Grayscale to convert its Ethereum trust to a spot Ethereum ETF. In the filings, the agency said it was instituting proceedings that involve gathering further public input around whether or not the ETFs should be listed. The agency also pushed back its decision on the Van Eck Spot Ethereum ETF and the Spot Ethereum ETF lodged by Cathie Wood's ARK Invest and 21 Shares. According to Bloomberg ETF analyst James Seifert, these delays were expected and were due to arrive sometime before December 25th. He added that the final date the regulator can decide on the ETFs will arrive in late May. Despite the SEC having approved Ethereum futures ETFs in the past, the agency has yet to approve a spot or mixed type product. Meanwhile, most of the market is focused on whether the SEC will approve 13 spot Bitcoin ETFs before the agency. According to Seifert and fellow Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchanas, the SEC could decide as early as January 10, 2024. Both analysts have pegged the chances of a spot Bitcoin ETF approval at 90%. The markets have been buoyed by the optimism that comes with institutional access to Bitcoin. In the last 6 months, the price of Bitcoin has increased by more than 44%. While touting slightly less significant gains, Ether's price has risen 16.8% within the same time frame per TradingView data. So this concludes our top headlines. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to click on the like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notification bell. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments and share this video with your friends and family. Thank you all for watching Crypto Top Headlines, bringing crypto's news to you.